Howdy everybody, Steve here, KM9G. Today I'm gonna have a lot of fun doing some Raspberry Pi stuff. I love experimenting. This is one of the really cool things that is happening in ham radio right now is we do have some resurgence of experimentation going on. John has created a Radioberry. It's an open source hardware and software platform for building a transmitter. It is very similar to the Hermes-Lite. It is so similar to the Hermes-Lite that when you pick it in your software, you actually pick Hermes-Lite instead of saying Radioberry. And both radios run on the HPSDR, the open HPSDR spec. My friends over at Rzync sent in the amplifier and the Radioberry Hat that you see sitting here on top of the Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi 4, Radioberry, and amplifier. The Radioberry is running one of those modem chips, similar to what your RTL SDR does. And then it has an Intel Cyclone processor on it to handle converting those modem sounds into audible sounds and do all the radio magic. And John set out to do this not knowing what he was doing. He says that he's going from noob to hero on his GitHub page, and he says it's in perpetual beta. So this is the snapshot in time for when I got this in my hands, and it used to be worse. I saw some of the evidence that it used to still be like on its growth path up. Now it's pretty stable, now it's pretty fun, and it's only gonna get better from here. So I will leave some links in the description down below so you can play along with this thing. But for now, let's go over and get the headers on, get the amp connected, get some software installed, and get on the air. Well, I guess we need a Raspberry Pi. Let me get into my Raspberry Pi bin and find us some tasty pie to use. Oh, this thing is stuffed. I need a Pi 4 out of here. There's so many other projects in here to work on. There is a Pi 4. And I know because that one's a Pi 5. The easiest way to tell these guys apart is putting them next to each other. The Pi 4 has USB on the left and Ethernet on the right, and the Pi 5 does not. But we're going to use a Pi 4 for this one. Why not save some money? The next thing I'm going to need is my soldering iron. Let me get that out of my bin of parts, because we need to put some pin headers on. This is my pine sill. I've had amazing luck with it. These are my soldering eyeballs. I don't think we'll need these, but we needed to move them out of the way anyway. And some Kester 6337 solder to get this job done. Because this is all magic, it's going to actually hold itself together just right to make my soldering job easier. So I'm going to wind up with a set of helping hands all in one here. And then that has plenty of length to go down one more board level. There we go. Let's get this thing warming up. All right, she's ready to go. She's cooking. And so that is one easy way to make helping hands. And yes, there are 1,000 different ways to make helping hands. This is just the one that I decided to try out today. Because what is this if it isn't about experimentation and fun? And yes, I'm taking this all the way apart because I want to show you something. So first off, if you're using one of these and it's not working out well for you, it's probably more to do with your USB power supply than it is with this. I had it originally set for 800 degrees, and the power supply that I was sourcing from couldn't get it above 610 before it ran out of mass. And that's because that power supply doesn't supply 12 volts. It only supplies 9 volts on USB-C. It's an Anker thing. Ankers don't like to do 12 volts. 12 volts was removed from the spec USB-C. So I moved over to my big 100 amp hour battery that I made, my battery box that I made. Took it right up to 800, had to bring it back down to 650 to get the job done because 800 is too much. And look at that. Not bad at all. What did we do? We wound up making this on. Look at how perfectly flat that is. That's just a work of art right there. So now we can put the whole thing on the Raspberry Pi. I'm going to do it on the Pi first. And what you're doing is you're turning your Raspberry Pi into an SDR radio server so that it can be discovered over the network and then controlled from your main computer. So now I get to do all those standoff things all over again. All right, and then on your Radioberry board in the middle here, and on this board, they're labeled receive and transmit, and receive and transmit. And you get these two little jumper wires to connect them together. So that's what I'm going to do, connect them together. And first I'm going to get these into position, and then I'm going to tighten them all the way down. Because I don't want to tighten this one all the way down first and then have it fight me trying to get this one into position, because they'll swivel just a little tiny bit while you're getting them tightened down. And this trick works especially well for SO239, PL259 type connections where they actually have centering teeth. All right, there we go. And then that becomes your new antenna connection. The way this thing is designed, it has some software protections built into it. So if you go over 50 degrees Celsius, it will actually shut off the transmitter here to protect the finals, which is really nice, actually. Well, I guess if we're going to do some Raspberry Pi stuff, we have to burn an SD card. And this is a big one, but inside the big one is the little micro SD card. It doesn't take a whole lot. I want to say probably less than 16 gigs, but good luck finding a 16 gig SD card. Get yourself a new fancy SD card for whatever you want. I'll leave a link in the description down below for a good one. Take whichever old one you have that works just fine and move it over to this project and give it a new life in a slow old machine for a ham radio project. But this is what I got. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it inside of my machine so I can start burning the SD card. I'm going to use Raspberry Pi Imager in order to do that. So first, I need to get to Raspberry Pi Imager. So I will leave all of these commands and everything you need to know in order to get this, the web addresses, everything. They'll be linked in the description down below as well. We need to go to raspberrypi.com/software, and that will give us the Raspberry Pi OS, but more importantly, it'll give us the Raspberry Pi OS Imager. It runs for Mac OS, for Windows. You can put it on Ubuntu for x86, or you can just run this command from your Raspberry Pi. Since I'm on a Mac OS machine, I'm going to download the one for Mac OS. I'm going to run through the installer. It works like any other Mac OS installer does. If you do the one for Windows, it works like any other installer for Windows does. Run the program, next, and you're done, and then run the Raspberry Pi Imager. So I'm going to imagine that you and I both have got that installed and running. And here we are. It's running. That's like magic. I'm going to choose my device. If you have a Raspberry Pi 3 laying around, the Radioberry support's running on a Raspberry Pi 3. Use that because it's not the most processor intensive thing in the world and you already have it, so why not? If you don't have one, get a Raspberry Pi 5 because it's going to just last you that much longer because that is also a supported model. But I have a Raspberry Pi 4. It's the oldest, cheapest, slowest thing that I have that's going to be able to get this thing done. That's the one that I'm using. So I picked Raspberry Pi 4. And then under OS, it gets a little teeny tiny bit tricky. You can do the full PiOS 64-bit with the full desktop, but you're not going to use any of the desktop for this case. So we're just actually going to go down here to Other, and I'm going to pick PiOS Lite 64-bit, which is going to have no desktop environment. So this is going to be the smallest thing that you can use to get this thing done. And I've already downloaded this. It's cached on my computer. I'm going to click that as the one that I want. I'm going to choose storage. I put a 64 gig card in. It's the one that I have for the demo. Again, you don't need one this big. So when I go to click on this to pick storage, I put a 64 gig card in, 63.9, close enough to 64. We're going to make it happen by picking that one. I can't pick anything else. It's got exclude system drive, so we're safe. So I picked that. Given a choice of only one choice, why not take the only choice? I'm going to hit next. And then this is the cool thing about Raspberry Pi Imager. You can do this without Raspberry Pi Imager, but it makes it all easy for you. I'm going to go ahead and edit my settings because this will pre-configure my Wi-Fi, my host name, my SSH keys, all that jazz. And I'm going to call this Radioberry because I have zero creativity and I don't know what to name things. This is my Radioberry device. I might as well call it Radioberry. It'll make it a little easier to find in the future on your network. Pick whatever name makes you happy. Radioberry makes me happy. Username, I'm going to leave this at Pi. The password, I'm going to leave this whatever it was. I don't care. I don't use the password. I don't need it. I log in over SSH keys. Here I can configure my Wi-Fi, my wireless LAN. So I've got it set up for my wireless LAN and my password and my Wi-Fi country of US. And then I also have it set for my time zone and my keyboard layout. All of that is fantastic. Services at startup, I want to have SSH enabled. Like I said, I wasn't going to use the user Pi with a password. I'm going to use it with SSH, so I have to have SSH enabled. That enables me to get in and do the rest of the commands here. And then set authorized keys for Pi. This is my authorized key, but if you want to use a password, you can go ahead and use the password. I love using SSH keys. I'll show you when we get a little further in the journey that I don't need to know the password because this key is going to be presented. This is the public key. My private key is going to unlock it. It's going to be a one-for-one match. It's going to let me in. I like it. And then under options, nothing special here. Do whatever you want to do with these things. I do like to eject the media so I don't have to eject it manually when it's done. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to say, yes, I'd like to use those settings that I just painfully went through and set. And then it's going to say, it's going to wipe out the SD card, which it is because it's installing a brand new operating system on it. So yes, and we're writing and we'll be back when we're done writing. I guess it wants to know my system password in order to overwrite a drive, which is fine. So I typed in my password. Now we're off to writing. We'll be back when it's written. Next up, we need some SDR control software, something to control the SDR radio with, and I'm going to use Spark SDR because it works on all platforms. SparkSDR.com. It is a cross-platform SDR application for Hermes-Lite and open HPSDR compatible radios like the Radioberry that we're playing with today. I need to go to Downloads, and then all these stable releases, Windows 10 and 11, Windows 7, thank you, Linux 64. They have a RPM for Red Hat machines and a deb file for Debian machines or Ubuntu or Linux Mint or things along those lines. I am on Mac OS, so I am going to download the appropriate Mac OS version. They have one for x86 Macs, and they have one for Apple Silicon Macs, and that is what I am going to use, is the Apple Silicon version. So I'm going to download that file. It's going to stick it into my downloads folder. Once in the downloads folder, you double click on it, and it produces a file for you. Take that file, drag it over into your applications folder on your Mac OS. On the Windows side of things, it's going to download a zip file to your downloads folder. Unzip the file. Inside of there is going to be an installer. Run the installer. Next, 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 and you're done. And on Linux, I don't need to give you guys any instructions. Y'all are geniuses. But basically, download the file and then click on the download in your downloads drop-down in your web browser, and it'll launch the installer and install itself. Again, we're going to pretend that we all got that all done, and poof, magic. After you get this thing downloaded and moved into your applications folder on Mac OS is going to be all up in your business. It says, Spark SDR is an app downloaded from the internet. Are you sure you want to open it? Well, of course I am. I downloaded it, I moved it into my applications folder, and I ran it. I didn't have any doubts until this exact moment. So I'm going to hit open. And then it says, Spark SDR would like to access the microphone. So yeah, if you are going to be using this thing as a radio, you might want to try to talk over the airwaves with it, and you're going to need a microphone for it. So let's hit allow. Spark SDR wants to find devices on local networks. This is a network attached radio. It's going to need to discover devices on the network in order to see it. It's not trying to snoop into anything, hopefully untoward, but take it at your own risk and under your own common sense and whatnot. But I need to find the Radioberry that is a network accessible device, so I need to be able to search the network for it. I'm going to click allow, and it presents you with this very unassuming screen here. So I'm going to hit settings and hope I can do that. And I might as well type in my call sign. And I might as well type in my locator. I happen to be in EN10 right now, and my antenna is the flavor of the day. And why not show the map? Awesome, there's a waterfall. I like dark mode. Enable experimental features. Of course I'm a ham, I like to experiment. Extended logging. Sure, I don't know what it is, but why not? Drivers required, and I don't think we need any of that. We do need to do HPSDR because this is a open HPSDR type thing, and I need to do 192.168.12.0, which is the beginning of my network, and the end is 192.168.12.255, and I bet it would have searched that anyway because it's the right network. And then all I can do is close this. There isn't really like a save button. I can keep going a little bit further. Let's do FT, JT, Whisper. So this is going to be your FT8 modes. This is going to be awesome. Do FT8 directly in there. And I already do have WSJTX installed. I'm just going to leave that the way it is. MIDI, I'm going to leave that the way it is. PSK, CW, audio, WebSocket, logbook. I'm just going to leave all that the way it is. Maybe we might do something later. And then I guess this is refresh. And it found the radio. I just hit the refresh button. That is awesome. Okay, and then this is a power button. Is there a tooltip? No tooltip. I wonder if this is like the start the radio connection and start doing things button. I'm going to hit this go button now and see what I can get. Oh, I got it. Look at that. All right, let's go to, there we go. There's a little FT8 magic for you. Nice. Awesome.
I'm looking at your website and I will read it more carefully once we have completed our QSO. So, Haru-san, wonderful to meet you.
That's pretty awesome.
I'll see you on the map very soon. And we are near San Francisco, my friend. I hope you have been well. JA1 and Charlie Golf. This is Whiskey 6 Echo Oscar. 6 Echo Oscar. Excellent organization.
Oh, nice. I'm hearing both sides of this. California and Japan, and I am in Nebraska. This is awesome.
Good. Thank you so much. Exact Reporting. Okay.
So I am in Nebraska. Nebraska listening to California isn't really all that special, but Nebraska to Japan, that's pretty cool. This is the antenna that I'm using. I'm out here to show you. It is the Chameleon 17-foot whip. And I have been using the 17-foot whip forever because it is super easy to set up. Put the adapter blank on there, put the ground spike in the ground, set up some ground radials, and you're off to the races. If we want to transmit with this thing, it is a very low power SDR radio, and we did go through all the trouble to solder on the headers and apply the amplifier board to the top of the unit. Let's power it up and put out some signal. I want to do some transmitting. So what I did is I got out my wire strippers. These things are pretty cool because they have kind of the jaws of life thing there on the left and the stripper of danger on the right there, and that makes it really easy to strip the wires. And then I used one of these Wago or lever nut connectors to Anderson power poles to get it plugged into my power supply, and that plugs into that JST connector there. I have this power supply down here. It is an Alinco, and I've got it tuned down to 8.4, and my camera wants to auto white balance. Tuned down 8.4 volts coming out, and that is safe for the amp. And my watt meter here seems to be happy with it, so I'm okay with that too. I did kind of always suspect that that watt meter had a 7805 in it or some other voltage regulator to take it from 12 volts bench power supply, ham radio type stuff, down to 5 volts anyway. I'm feeding it 8 volts, and it is probably reducing that down to 5 volts happily as well. Not that big of a deal. I'm just trying to get a little bit of a reading to see what's going on, and it's gonna work. Let's get over to the computer. I gotta configure the software so that it knows how to control the amp, and I'll show you how to do that. And then we'll do some transmitting. Inside of Spark SDR, we need to turn the radio on. There we go. Over here we have the 3 dots menu for the radio settings. First off, let me mute that volume so we don't have to hear that in the background. I'm gonna click radio settings and PA for power amplifier. And here I just want to have enable PA, enable power amplifier, and all the rest of these settings are fine. If I go back to general, I have this tune drive, and you want to take this thing, and it's going to take a long time, but tune it all the way up, all the way to the right here, and that will get you 255 drive, and 255 drive is what you want. And then down here, PTT hang time, it starts out at 20, bump this up to 30, and then you are good to go for transmitting. And now here's one of the cool things about this application. You want to do FT8? I got you covered, boss. I'm going to put it into FT8 mode. And of course, you can FT8 on any frequency, but it's customary. But it's customary to do it on. Here are my decodes down here. And so I can see a couple of people calling CQ. I can see a couple of people having some conversations back and forth. And that was the next window. So I'm going to go ahead and call CQ myself. You can see over here it says CQ KM9G EN10. And if you recall, that's what we put in the station, my call sign KM9G and my locator EN10. And so I'm just going to go ahead and call CQ, and we're going to have a little bit of fun. I hear the radio relay click on over there. I see power coming out of the power meter, and I can see it bouncing the signal up and down that it's trying to send. Let's see if anybody heard me. Oh, I have one person who has heard me at 1 watt. And there's another one that just came through, and the radio is transmitting again. It thinks I'm in Minnesota because that's where my QRZ call is. I'm in EN10. I'm down here in, where is it? I'm down here in Nebraska right now, near Lincoln. But it's going to be close enough to show the map. But these are the people that heard me. And 0 dB is awesome. Idaho. And another one in Idaho. And another one in Maryland. And we just finished another over. Oh, look at that. I'm getting heard up in Canada, Saskatchewan, British Columbia, Washington State, all over the East Coast. That's pretty cool. All of these people here are hearing me just fine. That is awesome. Let me show you the kind of power that we're putting out on this thing. This is crazy. There you go. 1 watt. That is beautiful. 1.3 watts. 1.4. How high can we go? 1.44. Nice. So I got some more playing to do with this setup, and I got some more videos to make with this setup. This was just a pretty quick introduction as to what it takes to get the Radioberry up and running. And hopefully you'll get one and get playing as well. It is such a small little thing. I love it. There are links in the description down below where you can get some more information on the Radioberry. And of course you can pick one up on Amazon, and I get a little tiny taste from the seller side. Doesn't cost you a dime. That's the beauty of modern e-commerce, modern commerce. I love it. Be sure to also look down in the description for the instructions on how to do this. It is super easy to get this thing installed and set up under 10 minutes. I was shocked. Totally shocked. While you're passing your way by down to get all the extra information and all the links and everything, there is also a subscribe button down there. I would greatly appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. I'm on a mission to get 100,000 subscribers. You can help. This would be fantastic to get there and share the word of how fun ham radio is and how awesome it is to experiment with this stuff. If you like doing experiments with ham radio and you want to know more about them, there's a video right over here I think you might enjoy next. Thanks for being awesome. I'll see you over there.